Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series Solo Apocalypse. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 34. My eyes glided across the otherworldly scene of modern man in the closed spaces of a ruin framed by a forest tinged blue. A space removed and alien, washed with moonlight. Sixth's twilight saber glinted in the twilight, sleek with scarlet blood, a stark contrast against the blue-green backdrop of the sleepy wood. My clone had wordlessly taken to the front without any complaint. They were, after all, expendable. It was a good thing that they did. The monsters here were thicker in number, a degree more dangerous. The trap we had found was rather conspicuous ruin, with tall walls and a state of disrepair with a single broken stone gate. In fairness, it was so obvious a trap as to instead be a challenge, like we had been prompted by the sleepy wood itself to dare try it. I saw them as shadows first, more fluid, deeper than any others, a minute difference in their shade of black against the shadows of the ruins. They clung to the walls of what might have been a small fort or keep, now covered in blue moss and rubble. Ifrits, Rickson called out before me. It was his search that had initially brought us here, a vague confirmation of something of immense interest, according to him. Apparently, his particular skill had a reliance on perception, wisdom, and intelligence. In the shadows! His perception attribute was high, if not higher than my own after these days of leveling. Get ready, Parker said, just as the shadow shot forward from the walls. The edge of the light from his globe Brendan dissuaded the Ifrit's incorporeal form. Instead, he blocked another one of the creatures slipping out from the shadow nearby. Six stabbed the squirming shadow, a violent hiss escaping the pierced ground. Smoke rose up from the edge of the twilight saber, like the barest edge of a ray of sun, burning. The Ifrit crawled out of the shadow, face twisted in anger. Firebolt! Rose's voice raised beside me, and the bolt of flame was brighter than I remembered. It exploded on another shadow snarling towards one of my other clones. Everyone had at least one offensive or defensive item now, if minor. Parker turned around as a clone warned him of an Ifrit, striking the creature in the chest with a pair of chitinous gauntlets that had come from defeating a gloaming scythe. My clone moved in tandem, using an ill-fashioned wooden spear to stab forward between his strikes. It was enough to draw blood, and eventually its death. Rickson had two clones supporting him, taking another Ifrit. Did emerge from the shadow nearby, but Rickson and my clones were ready for it, stabbing it with makeshift spears. I would have been happy with Ralph's bows, but this would do in the meantime. Without real weapons, Rickson's idea of spears was ideal. An Ifrit appeared behind Rose, clawing its way from her shadow. My eyes went wide as Solo's instinct prompted me. Rose behind! She whirled around. A black claw fell, accompanied by smiting teeth, and rebounded off a barrier of shadow. The Ifrit recoiled as Rose's coal-shade bracelet twinkled. It was enough of a distraction for me to plant my own spear into its neck, driving it to the ground. It struggled, unholy screams filling the quiet woods. Its eyes shot to me, a spark of malicious intelligence. I twisted the weapon, killing it immediately. Black blood dribbled down, and I took a breath, looking around. 3 Ifrit corpses and no rewards forthcoming. And this was just the outside. So far, everything had been handled as best as we could have. No injuries, no freezing up, no costly mistakes. Just enough to learn. These days, we were working well as a team. My clones acted as a kind of multifunctional glue, filling every role unmanned, or covering every mistake they could. These weren't here when we scouted the place earlier, Parker frowned, kicking an Ifrit corpse, one which had been pummeled to the ground after being stabbed down. We never got this close before, Rickson said, studying the ruins. He didn't wear his glasses anymore. They'd broken a while ago, and he claimed that he could actually see better without them now. They might have seen us and went into hiding. It's dangerous, Parker sighed. The cautious demeanor clashed with the black blood splattering across his face. He looked like a mess, but his eyes were constant, unyielding. It's always dangerous, Rose smiled. She perhaps had the same dose of reality as I did. The apocalypse weighed on her, drained the light from her eyes, but propped her back up, steeled the nerves. Rickson shuffled, oddly more confident without the glasses. "It's something of incredible value," he said plainly. "That's all I'll add." But I could see the eagerness in his posture. "All right, or I'll lead," I said, gesturing to my clothes. And we entered the ruins, stepping through the gateway that was missing an arch. Buildings stood to the test of time, some reduced to empty space, others standing tall, the majority between either state. There were fading symbols on every inch of stone, any pattern or meaning lost to the rubble. A bright flash of something was our only warning against our enemy. Ahead of us, Seventh was missing an arm, blinking at the limb like it had been instantly cauterized. He screamed, and I powered through the pain to stare at something that I could only describe as a ghost. If it were made of sunlight. They stepped between rays of twilight in some kind of inverted version of the Ifrit's movement, and they had weapons, albeit made of the same sunlight, a sword and shield, a spear, bladed weapons made from the sun, bright enough to blind our adjusted eyes. "Run!" I yelled, immediately recognizing the new foe. "Watch out, Rose!" Parker grabbed Rose as her cruel-shaped bracelet flickered again, rebounding a sword strike made of sunlight. Rickson ran after them, calling out ahead. "There!" he yelled. "That building!" It was one of the only ones still intact. I was right behind him. One of them swooped down with a scream like a banshee, and I yanked Rickson out the way, into the shadow of the building, staring at the creature. Human features twisted by something, ephemeral, as if made of the light itself. It hesitated as we tensed, running, but it didn't move, and I slowed, looking at it, then at the border of the building's shadow. Then it screamed and flew off. I lingered but followed Rickson into the building. "What are they?" Parker asked, looking through the stone window. He was grimacing, treating a burn across his arm. "Their sword burnt me." Rickson was out of breath. "The Sleepy Wood is a haven for creatures of night and dawn," he said, repeating the description of the dungeon. "I'm betting those are the creatures of the dawn, but damn." He's finished slumping. "They look like ghosts," said Rose, glancing out the window. Everyone is in slight shock, but for better or worse, they were used to these situations now. "Evan, you okay?" Parker asked me. "I saw they took an arm." "I'll be fine," I replied, wincing, idly rubbing the phantom pain of the missing arm. "We have a bigger problem." Eighth blinked as his spear went through the creature. It rushed down, moving freely in the twilight dimness, and swung for him again. He dodged, their movements wildly projected. It flew right into Ninth's fist and faced through it. End of chapter. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishikal, Dragzoon WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.